Want to welcome you tonight to Recovery at Lebanon. This is our second week, man. Or actually our third week. We're excited and excited to be with you, excited that you're here. And if you're here for the very first night tonight, thank you for coming. We know what a risk it was for you to make the decision to be here. And we've known people to take a long time to decide to come and be a part of this get together. And just want you to know you're in a safe place. You can ask any questions you would need to ask here. And it's even, we say this a lot, but if you're here and you're struggling with God, or you're not sure at all about your relationship with God, you're not even sure about God, you don't know if you trust God, you are in the right place, because everyone in here has dealt with that or is dealing with that relationship with God. It's a big part of what we talk about. It's a big part of the whole understanding of compulsion and addiction and the pain that we go through in our lives and relationships and grief and loss and all the stuff that we deal with here at Recovery at Lebanon. So we're just delighted that you made a decision to be here tonight, and we just want to continue to ask you to just keep coming back. This is a good place, and there are people here that understand you, people here that already love you, that they don't know you, but they already love you, and they're here to just be available to you and be supportive of whatever it is that's going to help you to move towards some healing and most importantly, towards some peace. Let's pray. Sweet Jesus, we just thank you for this time together. We thank you that you have moved into this room tonight. And we are so sure that you're going to bring your truth to us out of your words for us tonight. And we just pray that you create in us a willingness and an availability to just listen and to hear you out and to hear your truth out tonight. And some of it's going to be challenging, some of it's going to be even maybe hard. And we just pray that you just hold on to us, and just keep us in the place where we can just continue to listen to you. And we also just ask that, whatever distractions we brought into this room tonight, Lord, that you would just release us from those and cause us to leave those at the door or wherever, so that we can fully focus on what it is you're talking to us about tonight. In your sweet name we pray. Amen. So what we're working on tonight is step 2 of the 12 steps. And in this sort of getting started place here at Recovery at Lebanon, we wanted to work on steps 1, step 2, and step 3. So we're going to be working on step 2. And one of the ways to kind of understand or remember these first 3 steps, it would be like this, is to remember that, step 1 really tells me that I can't. It tells me that I can't do this by myself. Jerry said last week that the way it works is that we believe, and naturally so, we believe that we somehow have a lot more control over life and a lot more authority over life and a lot more control over our stuff than we actually do. And step 1 is that step where we begin to realize that, that's not legit. That's not the way my life is working out, is that I got all this, I've got all this management oversight over what I do, and everything, can click if I just make the right decisions. Step 1 says life is unmanageable. Another way to say that, I am not in control. Another way to say that, I can't do it by myself. Step 2 teaches us that he can. And the he we're talking about is Jesus, and we're going to get into that tonight, and we're going to get into what Jesus can do tonight, and we're going to get into what that means for us in our recovery. The he can step 2. Step 3, which we're going to be talking about next week, is the I think I'll let him step. And that has to do with us being willing to turn our lives and our will over to the care of God. Because God's not going to wrestle us. God's not going to wrestle us for our will. He's not going to fight us for our will. He's going to allow us to come to him in an open and a trusting way. So this is not force feeding. This is us becoming willing and available. Willing and available. So I can't, step 1. He can. What we're working on tonight, step 2. And I think I'll let him, step 3, which we're going to be working on next week. So I have a couple of pictures that I want to show you. One of them is of this poodle here, And I don't know why I picked this dog, probably because of the pictures that I could find of dogs. This was for sure the ugliest dog. And so I picked this dog, this little poodle. I think that's a challenge dog right there. But, the way that compulsion, the way that codependency, the way that eating disorders, the way that gambling addiction, the way that sex addiction works, the way that alcohol and chemical dependency works is that I start off believing that, it's just this once. I start off believing that I can manage and I can control my compulsion of choice or my addiction of choice. I start off believing that, I can stop anytime that I really want to. No big deal. And I believe that really what it is that I know I might be getting a little bit of criticism about this relationship or about how much I drink or about how much I use or how much I smoke pot or how much I'm on the internet or whatever it is, how much I gamble, how many times I go here and there and all that. But you know what? I really believe in my life that my deal that we're talking about, whatever that is more everybody else's problem than it is mine. And if people just leave me alone, I would really be okay. And I really believe that I've got this poodle or some dog like this poodle on a leash, on a proverbial leash. And that leash is that control thing that Jerry was talking about last week. And so I believe that I can walk around whatever it is that I'm into and sort of manage it just kind of like this poodle. Except that one day, and you never kind of know when it's going to be, and there's no day, no timeline or anything like that. It's not 71 days into it or anything like that. But one day, and it almost always surprises us, we wake up and we have a hold of that leash of whatever it is that we think we're walking around. And when I look at the other end of that leash, well, what do I see? What I see on the other end of that leash isn't that ugly poodle at all. What I see on the other end of that leash is a gorilla. And so I just, you think about, well, that's, I can't control a gorilla. I can't walk a gorilla around. I mean, the gorilla would be walking me. And see, you wake up on that day and you realize that, you know what? Life kind of is, even if I'm not telling anybody, and I'm probably not, life really has become kind of unmanageable. My relationship with my sister has become unmanageable. It's all I think about, trying to take care of her, deal with my mom, my husband, my dad, my kids, dealing with somebody in my life, my friend. I mean, they might have a million things going on, but now it's going on with me. And now I can't see the difference. In codependency, I really can't see the difference between their life and mine. And my life's not going to be good until their life is good. And I can't separate them from me. And I don't know where they stop and I begin. And I don't even know if there is me. And see, that's what holding on to a gorilla with that proverbial leash is all about. That's what it looks like when life becomes unmanageable. When my use of alcohol starts to influence my relationships, people are telling me about me. They're telling me how different I am. They're telling me how detached I am. They're telling me how depressed I am. They're telling me how aggressive I am. They're telling me how it seems like I haven't been at a social gathering, at a party, in the longest time where I wasn't going from being the life of the party to being really, really the challenge of the night. They're telling me something like that. They're telling me that it seems like I'm spending an awful lot of time with other people that nobody else knows. Or they're telling me I'm spending all this time on the internet, and how do we have these $700 charges this month on the credit card on the internet? How do we have that? Or they want to know more about why it is that I've lost so much weight. Or they want to know why I'm so depressed. Or they want to know why I don't seem to be able to get over this grief. Or they want to know why I don't seem to be able to move on from this divorce. They want to know. And I want to know. And I look up and there's this gorilla. And see, somehow on that day is different than all the other days when I thought it was manageable, and I realized that the gorilla is walking me around. And that's exactly what compulsion and addiction looks like. That's exactly how it works. It's sort of inches its way along. It kind of moves you along. You kind of think everything's really okay. Other people might be weighing in and telling you that they're not sure it's okay, but you're still sure it's okay. And then you meet this gorilla face to face. And then what? And then how do you say out loud that life's become unmanageable? And how hard is it to tell somebody else that? And what do you do about that? And what do you do about the embarrassment of that? What do you do about the guilt of that? What do you do about the shame of that, that somehow in our lives we're failing? We're not getting it right. And usually by about that time that the gorilla is on the leash, and actually the gorilla has us on a leash, people are weighing in. I can't, step one. He can is step two. And step two says this, is that I came to believe that a power greater than me, greater than ourselves, could restore us, and I love this word, sanity. Another way to say that is I came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to peace. So it's this he can step. And in the second step, here's some things that you see. Number one, you see that the understanding of how to live in that second step is progressive, right? Because it says, I came to believe, meaning there was a series of steps that I took. There was a progression of time that was involved. There was a timeline involved where I came to understand about this power greater than me, and about this power greater than me having the capacity to restore me to sanity, or having the capacity to restore me to peace. And so one important thing about recovery is, it's not, in the vast majority of situations with us, it's not an overnight experience. It's a progressive experience. It takes time. That's why we say, keep coming back. Why do I have to keep coming back? Because tonight, for most of us, we're not going to be able to just stamp the cure on us and go, we're good. Like we're USDA approved or whatever. We're not going to be able to have a stamp like that. It takes time for me to learn how to trust other people. It takes time for me to learn how to develop a relationship with a sponsor. It takes time for me to trust the open share group that I'm in. It takes time for me to become available to the literature of recovery that's so important, whether it's coming from NA, whether it's coming from AA, whether it's coming from Al-Anon, whether it's coming from a book like 12 Steps for Christians. Lots of stuff out there that's really, really, really good, that speaks absolute truth. But I got to be willing to do that work. And so this is a progressive recovery. That's what step two teaches us. It also teaches us about an awareness. And the awareness is that power greater than me. One of the realities of compulsion and one of the realities of addiction is that I believe that somehow the world, I come to this place of believing it's very self-centered. I believe that the world really does somehow revolve around me. I believe that the world and the success of the world necessitates me. In codependency, I believe that I'm responsible for the happiness and welfare of the following people in my world, and without me, they're certainly not going to be able to get there. And that's what I believe. It took me a long time to understand for myself that codependency really is a spiritual form of idolatry, because I was walking around playing the role of God. Thought I had to do it out of necessity. Thought I was doing the right thing. Thought I was doing the right thing for family members. Thought I was doing the right thing for my kids. Thought I was doing the right thing for me. Thought that, being a pastor meant that was my job, was to create restoration for people in my life, especially in personal relationships or family relationships especially. And that awareness is rough, because that awareness is going to talk to me about me. That awareness is going to change my understanding of myself. That awareness is going to change my identity. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The third thing about the second step is that it does create a movement toward serenity. It creates a movement toward sanity. It creates a movement toward peace. And again, not going to get it all at once, but that I am now in a progressive way having the sanity, having the security, having the peace in my life restored. And again, how? Not by me becoming more adept at my own recovery, but by me understanding that a power greater than me is going to work on me. So those are three things that I think come out of that second step that are all, worth understanding and worth working at. This disease of ours, regardless of what it is we're here dealing with tonight, a million things, doesn't matter. This is a spiritual disease that we have, meaning it really does involve God. And you can have a horrible relationship with God, and that's part of what's going on here with us. And sometimes I think we just want people to go, well, here's the thing. You can come to church when you get your relationship with God fixed up. And there's a lot of churches that this Sunday are going to be very content having people in church that all have the same views, or they think have the same homogenous views, that all love Jesus, that all have it squared away, that all read their Bibles every day, and that, are good to go in terms of the way they serve other people, and everything's good. But you know what? For a whole lot of us, life really isn't like that. We're not even sure that we trust God at all. We definitely don't have a relationship with God where we love him. We may have a lot of unfinished business with God, and this step is going to force that issue. Or it's at least one of the steps that's going to force that issue. There are others, but this step is going to force that issue. All three of these first steps are going to force that issue of what is going on with me and God. Do I trust God? Do I believe that somewhere along the way God has burned me, and I've got a history with God that's negative? That God let me down over here. God allowed this to happen over there. God did this over here. God didn't do this over there. And I've got to begin to come to a place like this to understand what is the truth about the heart of God. What is the heart of God? The heart of God is reflected in Jesus. The heart of God is reflected in the suffering and death of Jesus. The heart of God is reflected in the resurrection of Jesus. The Bible says it's real simply. If you want to get to know God, if you want to get to know the heart of God, if you want to get to know the nature of God, if you want to get to know the way God works, just get to know Jesus. Get to know Jesus personally. Get to know what Jesus has done. Get to know what Jesus is doing in my life. Listen to other people begin to talk about what Jesus is doing in their lives, and you're going to get to know the nature and the culture and the heart of God. And it's a big piece of this. This is about our spiritual relationship with God. Sooner or later, we're going to have to deal with that. It's also a disease that involves a mistaken identity. So when we talk about that, it's like, let's look at that. Well, here's the thing. God isn't mistaken about his identity at all. God knows who he is. God knows what his authority is. God knows what his power level is. God knows what he can accomplish. God knows what he has accomplished. God knows what he will accomplish, what he's going to accomplish. God knows what my life is going to look like 15 years from now. He knows the decisions that I'm going to make. He knows what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do. He knows where my challenges are, where my brokenness is, where it was. He knows my past. He knows all of that. God is not mistaken about his identity. He is absolutely clear and says it over and over and over again in the Bible. He wants people to know, I want you to know who I am. I want to make sure you know who I am and who you are. And the way that spins is God is always the creator. We are always the creatures. We have a hard time with that. We love to be the creator. In codependency, I would love to be the creator of happiness or contentment or peace or security or well-being for somebody else in my life. I would love to play the role of creator. Matter of fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do. But see, I'm living in a mistaken identity, and so it's going to cause me pain. God is the creator, and I am the creature. He isn't mistaken about his identity, so see, that leaves me. Here's a good quote. What is necessary to change somebody is to change his awareness, is for that person to change his awareness of himself. Maslow said that. What's necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. So I put up this picture, that says, this deal of who's playing God. And you can see up here on the graphic, right, the marionette. And how often is that us? How often are we trying to do life like we're a puppeteer and like we're moving around the world. We're moving around the people in our life. We're the ones that are able to create all the action and activity in front of us. And how much do we love playing that role of puppeteer? How much do we just cherish the opportunity to play that role of God? And that's what makes this step so hard. That's why I think it's written the way it is. Not that, it's simple for me to understand that I'm not God, or not a big deal for me to understand that I'm a creature. It's like I came to believe. And what's behind that progression is all the struggling days that I had, all the experience of fighting with God, all the experience of wanting to have my own power, all the experience of trying to fix things by myself. All that stuff wrapped up is that battle that goes on in me about me taking my hands off the puppets, me taking my hands off of life, me taking my hands off of the people around me taking my hands off of trying to manage and massage and keep my disease under control, keep my drug of choice under control. We believe for the longest time that we control our drug of choice. We believe for the longest time we control alcohol. We can start when we want to. We can stop when we want to. We can not use it all if we don't want to. We know what we're doing. We're in charge. Except it's that gorilla complex. There's a switch in the action where our drug of choice, where our compulsion, where our relationships are controlling us. And the solution is, first of all, for me to take my hands off of that furious pace of trying to be the manager and to say, you know what, I don't have any business playing God. This next picture is just it's just the greater than sign. How do you get yourself behind the open end of that arrow? How do you do that? How do you become the less than? How do you become the less than? You become the less than when you're willing to do whatever it takes to trust the greater than. And I don't think for most of us, if we try to align God with events, we're going to have a mistrust. If we try to align God with history and events, we're going to not trust God. We got to go back to learning what is it like to trust God based on Jesus. What is it like to trust God, realizing that our God in Jesus, in the body of his own son, suffered for us and died for us? What is it like to realize that he made a decision, God did, to send his son Jesus to live with us, to experience life the way we experience, struggle the way we experience it, emotion the way we experience it, pain the way we experience it, loneliness the way we experience it, stuff, relationships, all of it, abuse even, the way we experience it. See, like for us to realize that God is legitimately greater than, you finally got to go, I know you're bigger than me, and I'm not afraid of you, and I know you love me, and now I trust you. I trust you, God, with your bigness. I trust you with your power. I trust you with your authority. I believe that you're going to use your authority, and I believe that you're going to use your power, and I believe that you're going to use your strength to simply help me to rebuild my life, maybe to build it for the first time. I trust that you're going to use that all to my good. I trust that you have my best interests in your heart. I trust that as you're trying to design what my recovery is going to be like, God, as you're trying to introduce me to this sponsor who I'm not sure I like, as you're trying to introduce me to this open share group, as you're trying to introduce me to this step study, as you're trying to introduce me to Al-Anon, as you're trying to introduce me to NA or AA meetings, you know what, God? I trust you in this rhythm of recovery. Even if I don't trust what's right in front of me and I don't understand it, and I think the stuff you're asking me to do, God, is just crazy, you know what? I trust you. I trust the fact that I need you to be greater than me. That's how I restore my peace, is I return to my status of creature. You see, we're going to have a hard time with God's power and authority until we get to a place of trust based on Jesus, where his power is loving and his authority is loving, absolutely. Where his power is loving and his authority is loving, absolutely. Because see, ultimately for God, it's really not about him showing off his power. Ultimately for God, it's about him showing off being our dad. It's about him showing off being our Father. It's about him showing off his love. It's about hope. This step is a hope step, that there is a way out of the hell, out of the mess, out of the death, out of the pain that I've been living in. And it's my dad. And he loves me. And he has sacrificed his son for me. And he cares for me. And he has my best interest, my biggest needs, my biggest broken stuff, the train wreck that's sitting here that I'm looking at. He has that at heart and does not want to leave me there. This step is about hope. I believe that he can restore me to sanity and to peace. I believe that this greater than God can make that happen in my life. And you know what? I see where I've been battling him for who's going to win out. I see that I've been battling him for who's going to be the boss. I see that I've been battling him for who's in charge. And finally, I'm realizing that, you know what? It doesn't need to be me. Matter of fact, as long as it continues to be me, I'm going to stay sick. I'm going to stay in the middle of my disease. I'm going to continue to struggle. I'm going to continue to feel empty. I'm going to continue to feel desperate. And this step, we're not going to get it in an hour. You're not going to be willing to accept the truth of what we're talking about tonight. It's going to take you a while to get this in you. And the best possible way to do it is to be with some people tonight after we get done. Go to an open share group. Pick the one that works best for you. And simply be with some people that have lived this step, that know how hard it is to say, you know what, I got to return to being a creature, that know what that is like. I mean, sometimes there's even a loss in that, you know what, I'm not the guy that I thought I was. I'm not the woman that I thought I was. I'm not as powerful as I thought I was. And that's tough. But there are people here tonight that have been where you are, that have seen this step, that are now living in this step, that are going to tell you it's better. It's better to be a creature. So I'm going to be praying for that. I'm going to be praying for that opportunity to happen for you tonight. And we just want to continue to tell you, keep coming back to Recovery at Lebanon. Thanks so much. Amen.